Yo, yo, yo. Show's about to start. Hello, hello. Welcome to Transduction Signal on radio. I'm your host, and before we get this is premiere for this show, so thank you all for joining me. And so basically, I just want to give you a premise of this show. Each month, I will have a guest join me. There'll be a short performance, and then we'll get talking about their musical background, journey, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, I would like to really introduce the first guest, David Castellani.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
He's a producer, performer. He's a founder of imprint Noetic. He's also the co-founder and developer of a company called Anti-Culture. It's a company. Their first module that should be coming out, and we'll get into, which is the Precision. And he's originally based in LA, and it's just awesome to have him here. So thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Woo. Just kind of check in here. So we are live. Thank you all for tuning in here. Please be sure to your questions in the chat, and we'll get them answered throughout the conversation. Before we get into your performance, do you want to kind of say hello, a few words, or you want to chat for a second?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a big honor to be here. You're an awesome person welcoming me into the scene here in Los Angeles. I've only been here for a few years now, and connecting with you and just your background with music, your gear, passion, which I share as well, has been something that's been really rewarding for me. So I feel very lucky to be able to do things.
Awesome. It's so nice to have met you too. And I like that our friendship keeps developing. And so that's one of the I really also, not only to be my first guest, amazing art, you're a great person. And I was like, as we get to know each other, I really had a chance to really sit down, and ask you all these other questions, because I feel like everything out, like at a show, preparing for a show, and then we're like, like talking about gear, and it's like this time it's like we could talk about, and I want to hear about you, like a little more background. So what a great way to do it. All right, cool. So before we do that, I am going to play his performance for us. So I'll let you all sit back and enjoy that. Yeah. It was awesome.
Thanks.
That was a hell of a set. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's a really good time doing that. So be worked out.
That was great. All right. You're listening to Transduction Signal on DubLab Radio. I'm your host, Trovarsi. I have David Castellani with me. That performance. Fantastic.
Thank you.
There were a lot of questions. So before we get into, we have them all here. Why don't you and before we get into the background and all that, let's dive into the setup while it's fresh. Like what is going on there? What do you have there?
Two submodular cases, which I've recently kind of gotten into because up until recently, and not having had too much opportunity to go and gig via, taking my gear on a plane, I'd been touring with like my big for cases, and that's been a lot of fun. But then, I was out in Amsterdam last month and playing, and so I got myself together into some smaller setups. So I've really fallen in this new kind of little setup. I have quite a bit of stuff in there. Mainly, I'm using a lot of I'm using a lot of noise engineering stuff and Erica synths. Those are mainly most of my voices. At the top row, I have 5 or 6 oscillators up there, like the Terratex Terratus, Cursus,
all the crazy noise engineering names.
Yeah, that I had to write down because I can't remember them right. I have the wavetable oscillator, and I have the Pico voice.
Okay. You say the mimetic?
I'm.
Or no, you didn't get there yet.
So I'm using the mimetic as the sequencer for my bass. And I saw actually there was a question about like kind of how the bass worked out and how to get that rumble, and I think that's a question because for techno it's a big thing. And usually depending on whether I'm starting in the box or if I'm using my case. Actually, what I was doing there is I am taking the Mimetech Digitalis.
I know there is always such a note.
The Mimetic Digitalis.
MD.
Yeah,
it's called the MD. Yeah, there you go.
Which is 4 channels of kind of CV that it spits out, and then what I run that through the Dope for 135 CV mixer, and I use those 4 knobs essentially just mix the CV to run into the wavetable oscillator by Erica. So I just have bass oscillator, 1 like sub oscillator, and 4 different CV sequences come, and I'll just change the bass by moving around the mixer section on the Dope for mixer, the CV mixer.
Got it. So you're sending. So you can, so that you're sending note information for those. And specifically. So he's
right. Quantize them. So then once they're quantized, so they're fit into scale, and then I'm usually just sending like 16th note VCA for it, for gates, triggers. So to mess with those, but it's been a really great way with not so much HP to be able to really get like a different variation of being. And
smart.
Then that was really cool. I was kind of fell into it. Really liked the way. I know somebody also had asked about side chaining and how the low end was working, and the answer yes, there is a side chain compressor going on. Kick is side chaining the bass, but they mentioned they didn't hear it pumping. That's because I do try to keep it really light.
Get that?
Yeah, that kind of like pumpy thing is such a specific sound. It has like it's deeply rooted almost in like some styles. And that's something I kind of try to from, so I really focus on that. And then of course there's also a lot of proper EQing and boost frequencies at the right places to make sure that they're not eating at each other too much. Hardest things to do is to mix the low end,
right?
As you know,
I know we've talked about that countless times.
Yeah.
Let's see, there's a question about big sequencer on the bottom left. Let's pop it up there.
So the bottom ones that you see on the left, those are actually circadian rhythms.
Okay.
And when we said left, we meant like my left or left of the screen. I think we were talking about my left, right?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, because those are the ones that you can see the most with all the green and red lights. Yes. And I love, honestly, I'm madly in love with those. 2 of them in my rack, and they're pretty big, but just because of having that like per step of 64-step control over drum for me. And what I do there is like, so I actually have, one of them is going into the simulator, the raw simulators, you know, kind of my main sample for my drums. Use one-shot samples in the assembly more. Use drum modules. That's for me because I find that realistically, I need drums to be more of like a structural and like have a. It's kind of like when you build a house, you know, like you have the foundation of the house kind of needs to be precise in where it is, and then you have decorations and you can, you know, paint the walls and do all this stuff where you have more freedom. For me, drums had this like structural purpose. They need to do their job frequency wise. So what I prefer to have is kind of have the right sounds ready to go and I quickly. So I'll have like, you know, a folder of, you know, whatever, 10, 20 one-shot drums that I use a lot, instead of having too much control over the drums. And, you know, if I can make my kick drum sound like a synthesizer or like a high pitched voice, I'm just wasting time.
Yeah, you'd be buried in there and not worry about the rest of your
so I just want to dial it in quick.
Do you use these like in the assimilator, because I use the assimilator as well.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what the assimilator is, it is a sample player. You can to it. You even sample CV, but do you use a multitude of kits or do you tend to try to pick sounds and kind of just stick with those sounds? Okay.
Yeah, I created my own folder, you know, that I kind of put everything and I hits within that folder. But it's kind of always the same group of, you know, 5 to 10 kick sounds, 5 to 10 hi-hat sounds, so on and so forth. And I just kind of recycle through those.
Gotcha. All right, let's look at another. Let's see, we have lots of good questions. All right. So, what mixer between the Mimetic and the Erica wavetable oscillator again? What was
it's the A135 CV mixer.
Got you. Okay. Thank you for answering.
Yeah, of course.
And let's see here. There's another one here. What's your second favorite pitch sequence and second of all time favorite pause?
Oh, that's a hot question. Man, I gotta say, I can't completely devote myself to one. Of course, the first is the Precision Disruptor, which is ours because, you know, we made it and I'm in love with it. But a few sequencers that I do use a lot. Definitely have to give a shout out to the Usta sequencer. That thing is really great. I've you know, they're also an Italian company and I'm Italian too. So but the way that it works, I love that it's the circular kind of path of it and the way that you can each gate longer or shorter or each space. I also love the black sequencer from Erica.
Okay.
I also love the ER101 ophtonical.
I've never tried that. I've been wanting. I know. I don't even know. It's like
orthogonal. Oh my god.
I've watched that sequencer, but that was like always been a kind of a tough one to.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Or orthogonal. I'm sure somebody else knows it better than I do.
Yeah. Anyone in the chat phonetically spell that out for us would be great. No. But okay, so Italian, let's kind of segue into, because we'll back to talking about your setup and that because of the foundation of your setup, like let's get into your person, your background, like Italian.
Yes.
So let's, like kind of give us a broad stroke from there to.
Sure. In Italy, I was born in a city, which is just a coast on the Mediterranean, kind of up near towards where the left side of Italy, the boot kind of looks up. It's a couple hours away from the French border, so it's real close up, kind of to the France area. Up there, from there, my mother is from Milan, so I was born in Genova, and then I lived there for a few years. Then I moved to Milan for a few years. My mother was really American culture. My grandma, his mom, was an English teacher in Italy. She taught when he was young, and then also was really adamant him to kind of be part more of the culture. And she sent him to be a foreign exchange student in high school in California. I came over here. He spent a year in high school here, his senior year, and he fell in love with it. Went back home, got married. They had me, and then from there, he, through his job, had us transferred over to the U.S. There was kind of a period where we're kind of moving back and forth a little bit, between the age of 5 and 10, there was kind of forth. And then eventually
between the US
and Italy.
And was it California? Or was
no.
It where
It was we actually lived in Ohio. There was like a year we were in Ohio, but then we moved to Chicago. And it was,
so Midwesterner / Italian. I got it.
Yeah. And then I lived in Chicago up until about 5 years now. Actually, it's weird. This week will be 5 years for me to be here in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's quite different, obviously like people love the whole, like I'm from the Midwest as well. So that whole Chicago house, and that Detroit sound, and then now, LA, being out here, like like how is that's a loaded question, but
that's a tough one too. Well, first off, let me say that Chicago is a beautiful, beautiful city. I've spent most there. The people there are really amazing. Some just like people, and then also some really great people that are involved in the scene. Some really close homies, and a lot of people that are really pushing it, and the history of Chicago, and the background, and I guess we can talk about where electronic music started, but of course Chicago has its and it's beautiful. And then also its marriage close to Detroit too is something that has always been really, really beautiful for me. But I gotta say that the last few years, unfortunately, Chicago has had a tougher time being able to under parties that aren't in clubs. And I think mainly in my perception, and I could be wrong, but my perception is because the police is really strict on wanting to control everything, and
like as opposed to, like, to the
like if you're throwing some illegal party, and there's not too many where there's like no one around where you can not like bother a neighbor or whatever, so it's gotten harder and harder over the years to be able to throw these underground parties. Our scene really does live in that space, to these events. And even though Chicago is nice, because Chicago does have a stay open until 4 and then 5 o'clock on Saturdays, so you can have people stay open late. We want to go until 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right, like the underground.
Yeah. And so that, unfortunately, I feel like has snuffed a lot of the freedom that there used to be there to be able to do stuff like that. Of course, there are clubs still that are pushing, like Smart Bar and Spy Bar and Primary, which is a smaller spot, but in general, compared to,
right. Was that one of the reasons why you kind of navigated over to LA? To move to LA?
Yeah, I came here actually for some family. I came here from family obligation. Kind of brought me over here, and it kept me here for about the first year. After that was kind of resolved, then it was a choice to either go back home or to stay here. And of course, the main factor for me was the music scene. So just so thriving and lively, and the people that are here, they have taking it into a really beautiful space, a good job. They're really, parties are strong. They're properly set up. They care about the people. They care about the details.
Like a proper business.
Yeah, right.
Like all those.
They're safe, but still free, like you have freedom to be yourself and to explore this culture. But at the same time, they have all the amenities and all the things to make sure that people are safe and happy when they're in that environment.
Exactly. I have to agree with you here. But so let's take a step back for just a moment. So when you were, so you lived in Chicago, moved here, and I know you used to DJ as well. And so, being a live performer now, like, I'm going to ask you two questions. And
sure.
So, like, what made you decide to stop DJ? What was that crossover?
Sure.
And first answer that. I'll ask you my next question.
Well, yeah. So when I was in a duo called Mia, I'm still part of that duo. I'm doing it lately, but we are still, very much a group, and that's kind of where I cut my chops as far as electronic music goes. My partner, Mike Azarkin, he was a person that gave me so much information, taught me so much about stuff. And when we performed, we did these kind of like DJ live sets. So it was like half DJing, half machines on top of loops and stuff. So that's kind of where, like, I learned to DJ, and I started getting my hands into that stuff. When I moved here, and then, like I mentioned, I kind of took this like year off. And then when I got back into it, during that break, I also had kind of gotten a lot more into Eurorack, but I really kind of started leaning into it more and more and more, and getting more obsessed with it. And it just kind of naturally felt like that I wanted to move forward.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, it's not like now I'm completely up DJing, or I don't think that I'm going to be in situations where I will be DJing, but I do think that overall it's important for me to want to kind of stay true to that, because the experience for me is just a lot more rewarding.
Okay.
Also, at the same time, I know it's not easy for all clubs and all venues and promoters to be able to facilitate. So I know that that's something that you have to deal with, but
Exactly. So then do you feel that, okay, so now not, making that decision then and becoming more like live performer focused, no longer do you find that the types of shows, like, you have to be, they're a little more selective? Do you also find that like being a live performer and that play as many you know what I mean, as opposed to DJ, obviously, easier in the sense of showing up with very different, recommend DJ of the journey. I love the curation of sets and all that, but it's obviously different, right? So versus pack gear,
right?
And with that,
two very different things. And so, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm still building my momentum here, and I'm still know who I am, pushing my label and everything like that. There's still a lot of for growth. I mean, the whole world is in front of me still, so I feel like there's a lot moving forward. But yes, of course, there is this huge difference between being able to just quickly set up something and then having to set something up. There are multiple things about that are actually, for me, are really important. One is the club or the promoter or the venue has to be willing to have some extra space, for you got a DJ booths are small, so to bring another table, stuff like that. Then on top of it, sound check is important. It needs to be there early before the event starts to let me set up and like kind of my sounds and figure out that it makes them because every environment's so different. And then really the biggest thing for me of the day is being able to what I'm doing. If I can't hear what's going on, I found that it will completely destroy the whole ability to really get and perform properly. Because the things that you're thinking about when you're doing, like, you're doing this, you're trying to keep track of 8, 9, 10 different things all at the same time. And when you're doing this juggling act, if one of them starts popping out the wrong way, meaning you can't hear it right, or it sounds weird because the sound is messed up in that space, what happens is I start trying to follow it, and I lose track of all the other things that I need to remember that I need to be doing.
Right, you kind of get sucked down that little tunnel of hyper focusing on one thing and then losing track of time. I did notice at one of the sets when I went to play live, you were played completely in your headphones. That's how, because you get there and I just can't hear, and I have to do that, because otherwise the whole performance for myself and then for everybody outside dance floor, like it's important. Yes, extremely. I want to kind of touch on, you mentioned anti-culture. And tell us a little bit about that for those who, I know there's people in listening right now and they are very familiar with this amazing thing that you're making, but for those who don't know what it is, I'll let you explain what your role is in that. First of all, so much, because you've been so supportive of it from the very beginning, and it's been you great community around you, and that's been for us to be able to get our name out. Anti-Culture is a company that we've started a little while ago. It's me and my partner and a couple other people, and we essentially just saw an opportunity to create a sequencer that was kind of different and new. The first module is called the Precision Disruptor.
randomization-based generative sequencer that allows you to select a few specific parameters, like what notes you want in a scale, octave ranges you want. And then with some sliders, you can automatically populate gate slides, accents, and note and octave variation in a way. And
very cool, by the way.
Thank you.
Immediate.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's fast. And then it also, what it has these, that's why it's called the disruptor. We have these two buttons that allow you to shuffle around the rhythmic content or the melodic content at the click of a button, kind of very similar to the melodizer from Vermona.
I know you have one. Do you mind?
Oh yeah, you want to look at it?
Yeah,
sure.
Check it out.
Hold on, sorry for the crinkly here, because I'll pull it out of the back.
So while you're pulling it out, and we're gonna, I'll kind of let people
really see. Is it?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. The buttons, they feel great. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, it's okay.
Everyone's kind of dying for this thing. Do you have like a potential pre-order date, or is that sort of you're still in the works?
No, we do, and it's actually very, very, very close to right. So cool. I don't want to give it away because there might be give or take a day or two, but it's like right now pretty much. For people that are interested in it, the best way to stay informed is to head over to our website, which is anti-culture, and culture spelled with a K.com.
I'll drop it in the
perfect. Thank you.
Chat.
Yeah, so you can go to and you can join the email sign up list, and you will get notification as soon as we are ready to send out the pre-orders, which again is going to happen like soon. And that will mean that we're going to do essentially two batches of releases. So the first one, which is a batch that's going to be available to be shipping in mid-December, cool. And then a bigger one in February.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We're right there. After 2 years of working on it, it's been a long time coming. So we're excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for you.
Me too. Thank you.
Play with this thing.
Yes. Me too.
Gosh, like I know the time is like speeding along. I do want to ask you about music.
Sure.
Your release, Noetic.
Yeah.
The importance of you in releasing music. Like, what does that mean to you? So I know it's a lot, but
Sure. Yeah. Right. So I have a record label called Noetic. We're coming up on a year and 3.5 months of its birth, which was in July of 20. It's been something that I've been really, really just blessed to be able to have moved forward and for it to have had the traction that it has in such a short amount of time. Owning a record label is something producers always want to do, and it's always something that I've kind of pushed off because I know it's a lot of work and the timing is right. But when I kind of launched my solo thing and kind of this new process, we saw the opportunity, me and the people that I get to work with that helped me kind of push everything along. We got to be able to kind of come up with this project and concept of having a space for me to be able to mainly release original music, which is really where it started off as I start getting my, and in that process, also having the ability to really focus and curating on sure that the label is doing what it needs to be doing, both from an artistic musical side as well as from a standpoint of being properly, get it into the right hands of people, right artists for stuff. And then also through that, I've also been really blessed to be able to have connected with a lot of great who have done remixes for me on the releases. So I've gotten to work with amazing artists like Etap Kyle, Matrix Man, Red Shape, Voice Key, DJ Hyperactive.
That's your latest remix.
One is Hyperactive. Yeah. Okay. There's another one that's going to be announced about a month that I can't talk about yet, who's another really amazing artist that I'm very excited about. So, and then there's a couple other ones also in line after that. So I just lucky that I've gotten these great people that I've to want to participate part of the things that I'm doing. So it's really just immutable, as opposed to like trying to send your music, out to labels, which is also something that's important, and probably the most important thing is sharing your music with all other labels. also is dimming, and you know, being able to connect with these labels takes time, especially these labels a lot of times have a lot of people waiting for, you know, to get on releases. A lot of them are not in LA, you know, and like this industry is a lot about who you know and like making friendships and making those and so that can take time, especially when you're dealing with someone that's across, you know, the Atlantic.
globe.
Yeah. So
do you plan on releasing other artists on this label, or is this a vehicle for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I do. Right now it has me, but I am interested in releasing other artists. I just haven't really had the time too much to really dive into it, and really listen to demos and kind of put hat on, you know, and kind of start looking around. But I'm always interested in that. And of course, you know, I want the label to be more than just my music. You know, I want it to really grow on remixes and stuff. I really want it to become a hub where great artists can come and do cool stuff, you know, and I'm a big believer in supporting them, you know, and like the same way supporting myself, because I think that's a big problem. A lot of labels is they don't, you know, you can get approached.
Right.
I can put your music on Beatport. It's like, well, anybody can put your music on, you know, distribution is not hard these days.
Right.
Promoting it, you know, cool art and finding the right remixers, and it takes a little money. You have to invest in it, and you have to treat it as like something that needs love and support, you know, and that's something that I'm into. So.
I like that. I like that. And LA based too.
Yeah. That's right. For sure.
So if you were giving advice to somebody who wanted to, you know, maybe they're in their studios already and they're dabbling with hardware, you know, and they feel like they're might be ready, like start playing or not, and they're kind of on that jumping off point, like
playing live.
Yes, like what are some what advice do you have for them, like some key
That's a big question too. I think the approaches that, you know, there's as you see, there's so many people that do so many different things. You know, some of the best artists I've seen do this will just come out with an octatrack, you know, and it's just them on an octatrack and they're killing it by themselves with that. You know, other people bring up, you know, so, and I'm not so sure that's wrong. One of the things that I think is important is, first and foremost is, make things simple for yourself, in the sense of, be able to kind of keep track of, you know, the few different things that you need to make sure you're remembering, and then get into the habit of moving through those motions, turning things on and off, making sure that there's sections, remembering to, you know, remembering that there's peaks and valleys in the performance, you know, that things need to kind of rise and then come down and then come back up. And if you have too many things to think about it, you're not used to thinking about them that way, you'll get lost, you know, and you'll kind of get stuck. And this is coming from someone that, you know, uses a big rig a lot of the time. Which, do
you set a timer for yourself, or
if I have a set that I need to, within an hour or whatever, yes, I'll have a timer next to me. Yeah. But if not, just in general, the idea of ups and downs is really, really important for me. Kind of learn to, it's weird. Like when you first start doing it, you have a lot of things to think about, you know, it's like, and you're trying to think all about all of them. It's kind of like driving a car. You know, the first time you learn how to drive a car, it's like, oh, where are my hands? When's the last time I checked the mirror? Did I do this one? You know, and you keep doing these checklists. Then eventually you're just driving the car. Like you're not even thinking about it.
Second nature.
Right. And then you just check the mirrors when you need to, you put the turn, you know, so, and that's kind of the same thing with performance. At first, you know, remember this and that, and then slowly those things kind of get into the background. And so that's why it's important when you're starting to not overload yourself with too many things to keep in mind, because that'll make it hard for yourself. And if I could say one more thing about this, I know we don't have too much time, but another thing is, I approach my live sets a lot how I've approached my making music when I'm sitting in front of a DAW on tracks. Okay, so like when I think about, because I'm a producer that has spent most of my music life in front of a computer recording and engineering, and like for me, that is something that has been invaluable when then turning into using live hardware for performances. I reference back to what I would be doing if I was sitting down in front of a computer and I have all the time in the world. What is the next choice I need to be making? And after years of doing that so much, now I kind of approach my live performances that way too. say that if you want to be a good performer, it's important for you to how music works. So meaning understand the structure of how electronic music works, understanding the different sections that electronic needs, and making sure that you hit those parts, both from like an energy to like a structural, kind of view.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. It is like, it did take some time to getting used, myself personally. Yeah. Break it down, doing air quotes for those.
Right. Yeah.
Totally. Just like knowing when to pull the kick and all that sort of stuff. But it does sort of second nature of when you
just get it.
Question that. So, I know you said you spent a lot of your years, and I know we're on we have a few minutes left before the top of the hour. When you're producing your tracks versus, your live tracks, like, do you find that you follow the same, like, similar structures, but do you feel that because you've played live, that has now shaped the way you produce in the sense of song structure?
There definitely is like an influence. Yes. I would say first it was mainly my production kind of brain has helped me focus on how to do things live, but kind of like the energy, what has kind of bled more back into my tracks now is the understanding of like making something. When you sit down and you're making something in front of it, you have the freedom to go in any sort of direction, and your mood can be whatever it is in that moment, and that can take you all over the place. When you're preparing a set for a specific where that the energy is going to be like this, and you got to get a dance, and maybe it's not the right time to make people think and take them on some weird journey, brain thing, and you want them, right, and which is fun to do too, and especially when you're making tracks, be able to have that freedom and that expressiveness. But the biggest part that's bled back into my tracks is that concept of being like, okay, well, this is what this dance floor wants, and I think it's important to be making music that rock, because that's at the end of the day what we're making is like music for dance floors. So I think that's what I do, maybe less so much in like the arrangements, but definitely in the energy side of things.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you find that like like you're not
like, as long?
Exactly.
Yeah. More into it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Getting right.
Making big changes quickly, nagging too long anymore. I think that's also kind of how the style has changed over time. And then also with it's a boom, you're in right away. So much of this will build for over 4 minutes, like you want to kind of give it to them, and but you also want to keep it moving. You want things to change, and you want them to often, and everything should always be moving. Okay to make big, sudden moments, and it's a thing evolve as they go. So
cool.
Yeah.
For sure. I just want to check in and make sure we didn't miss any questions. I want to thank you for tuning in to Transduction Signal. Your host Trovarsi. This is DubLab Radio, and I just appreciate you being here. I know so many things. I definitely need to have you back again if you want to have you. And we have a couple minutes. Is there anything you want to talk about? Or I know you have a clothing line with your partner. And that's pretty.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Me and my partner Brittany, we have a clothing line called After Infinite. So it's afterinfinite.com. She's really kind of with that whole thing, and I kind of support a little bit on the side and help with it. But it's kind of this rave face, kind of weird alternative clothing line that we've been building over the last few years. It's always growing and always pushing where she's, and me as well, but she is spending a ton of time on it, and she's doing a good job. So we're really happy with it, and looking to the time. So if you're looking for some cool, weird, punky rave gear, that's
I was I like some of those t-shirts.
Yeah.
Stuff. The website, I'll drop it in.
It's After Infinite. .com. Yeah, that's right.
Great. All right. So I'll make that available. And yeah, like I just again want to say thank you so much for thank you
Yeah.
for being here with us, listening, and your questions.
Oh, thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for everyone that listened, and a party sometime. Shaking around.
Yep. Where can they? I know I've been putting it up, but it's just say for your Instagram.
Yeah, Castellani Music. So just my name that's in music, and that's the same for all my socials. So you can find me. And I'm going to be doing for people that follow me on Instagram as well. I'm going to be doing a little promotion. We both played the Reform Fest this year or this fall. That was really fun, and I have like a video of it that I messed with and had some cool art done to it. I'm going to be releasing later this week, so that'll come out too. And
very cool.
You can check that out via.
Are you putting
Instagram.
It on your YouTube or your channel, on your YouTube page, or on?
Yes. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually put it out for the 30 days to people that are SoundCloud, to kind of get people into the label more and stuff like that. And then after that, it'll be everywhere, YouTube and on SoundCloud, both the audio and the.
Great. I will actually drop that here. Your SoundCloud is also your name, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then on that note, I will say thank you, David, for being here.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This is Transduction Signal. I'm your host, Trovarsi. This is on DubLab Radio. And until, take care. Keep music.